ago. So just I would say this, any comments you make, in social media or around other people, just think about what you say and just don't throw out insensitive political slogans and nonsense. Just be logical and careful in your thinking about this. All right? So that's what we'll say in regards to that. And there's no easy way to transition, but let's consider now our devotional thought for this Sunday afternoon. My devotional thought is going to take me right back to the Gospel of Matthew. If you've been listening to the live broadcast this week, you can go back and listen to all the recordings on the VBC 66 app and on the Spreaker app. We've been looking at a lot of passages in the Gospel of Matthew. And this Saturday, we're in Matthew chapter 14. I'm going to set the iPad down on the stand. Matthew chapter 14, verse 1. Matthew chapter 14, verse 1. Let's pick up this reading. We're going to look at, I'm moving away from the iPad. I apologize. I'm picking up my Kindle here because I'm utilizing the historical lectionary for this reading. Matthew chapter 14, verses 1 through 12. That's what we're going to look at. Matthew chapter 14, verses 1 through 12. I'm going to be reading from the King James Version of the Bible. Matthew chapter 14, verses 1 through 12. At that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard of the fame of Jesus. All right, so we have Herod. He hears of the fame of Jesus. He's getting the news reports about this Jesus. So at that time, Herod hears this. He hears about the fame of Jesus. He gets these reports, and he said unto his servants, "This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works do show forth themselves in him." Let's stop right there. Herod hears this news about Jesus, all these mighty works, all these things that he's doing, and Herod, he immediately thinks, this is John the Baptist raised from the dead. Now that seems like an odd thing to say, right? Why is Herod go, wait, this is Jesus, he's John the Baptist, he's raised from the dead. Why was he thinking that way? What was motivating him? Just follow me, because I think this is the direction I'm going to take this devotional thought based off, kind of what the news, everything going on in El Paso just seems to be the way my mind is thinking right now for whatever reason. I know there's a lot of different ways we could look at this, but let's consider this. So here's Herod. He's like, hey, this Jesus, I'm hearing all these reports. And he said unto his servants, this is John the Baptist risen from the dead. And then verse 3, for Herod had laid hold on John and bound him and put him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife. All right, now that's interesting because this kind of gives us into the mindset of Herod. He hears about Jesus, and it's almost, and I think this is almost fair to say, there's fear here. There is concern. He's afraid. Wait. I think this Jesus is John the Baptist. And I had this man, I laid hold of this man and bound him, and I put him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife. For John said unto him, it is not lawful for thee to have her. And when he would have put him to death, he feared the multitude because they counted him as a prophet. So here's the thing. I believe Herod, jumping to the fact that Jesus is the resurrection of John the Baptist, has something to do with fear. And then when we start getting the account of why he may be fearful, we find out that he placed John the Baptist in prison. Why did he put him in prison? Well, for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife. For John said unto him, it is not lawful for thee to have her. John the Baptist rebuked him, condemned his sinful action, so he had him put in prison. Now, he would have put him to death. He would have gotten rid of John the Baptist, but he feared the multitude because they counted him as a prophet. So, when Herod hears the news of John the Baptist, he immediately thinks it's the resurrection. When he hears the news of Jesus, he immediately thinks Jesus is the resurrection of John the Baptist. And that seems to demonstrate fear. He had placed John the Baptist in prison because John the Baptist gave him a message that he did not like, saying what you're doing is wrong. He wanted to have John the Baptist killed, but Herod feared the multitude. Please note there's a theme I'm developing here. Verse 6, but when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod. Whereupon he promised with an oath to give her whatsoever she would ask. And she, being before instructed of her mother, said, give me here John Baptist's head in a charger. All right, so he's got him in prison. He's trying to silence John the Baptist. He wants to kill him, but he's afraid to. He's afraid to, right? Because of the people. He's afraid of the people. He has a birthday party. Oh, here comes the daughter of Herodias, danced before him. Obviously, Herod was extremely pleased by what he saw. Wherefore he promised with an oath to give her whatsoever she would ask. I'll give you anything you want. And she, being before instructed of her mother, said, give me here John the Baptist's head in a charger. And the king was sorry, nevertheless, for the oath's sake. And them which sat with him at meat, he commanded it to be given her. So he hears this request and he's almost like, oh, no. I made this oath. What I'm going to do. But I like the way the text placed it or states it. And them which sat with him at meat. He doesn't want to break his oath, but there's something else motivating him. He doesn't, I think he fears looking weak in front of all these people. I mean, what are they going to think? If I don't do this, they're going to see me as being an oath breaker. They're going to see me as he seems to be motivated. His concern that Jesus is John the Baptist is motivated by fear. He wanted to kill John the Baptist, but he didn't because he was afraid. Now he gets put in a situation where someone's like, hey, give me the head of John the Baptist. And he's even sorry about this, mainly because he's afraid of maybe what the people will think. Fear. Fear seems to be a common theme here. Verse 10, he sent and beheaded John in the prison. And his head was brought in a charger and given to the damsel, and she brought it to her mother. And his disciples came and took up the body and buried it and went and told Jesus. All right, there's the basic text there. There's the basic story. And what we learn about Herod here, we learn that Herod clearly is an individual that is greatly motivated by fear. He's greatly concerned by fear. Fear of other people. Fear what people will think. Fearful. Hey, I want to kill John the Baptist. Oh, but I'm afraid of the people. Hey, okay, I get a chance to kill John the Baptist, but oh no, but what will other people think? I'm afraid. Wait. This Jesus, I'm afraid that's John the Baptist raised from the dead. That he is completely consumed by fear. All right. This is something that we have to consider. This is something we have to think about. I want you to consider right now in your life the power of fear. How fear impacts you. How fear controls you. What influence does fear play in your life? I will say that one of the greatest fears that people have, now I know the fear of public speaking is considered one of the greatest, but I think the fear of people is such a dominating thing in the life of many people. They're afraid of what people will think. They're afraid of how people will perceive them. They're afraid of public opinion. They're afraid of being, dismissed by the public. They're dismissed by the majority. Fear of people is a trap that can destroy a person's life. Herod was controlled by fear. How does fear impact you? How do we overcome the fear of people? Now, for your Christian life, this is very critical. If you're going to live out a Christian life in any meaningful way, You're going to seek to live out the Bible. You're going to seek to stand for biblical morality. You're going to try to take a stand. You're going to have to overcome the fear of people, because you're constantly going to be at odds with the culture. You're going to be constantly at odds with people. People are constantly going to look at you weird and strange, and you're going to have to be able to deal with the fear of man. The fear of man is a trap. And it is something that you have to deal with. It's something you have to deal with. And I think that I think sometimes we try to convince ourselves that everything is okay, but I think sometimes we convince ourselves. Give me 1 second. I'm responding. You probably hear my phone in the background, well, we'll get to it in just a second. I hate the fact that the phone starts ringing. It's a trap. As soon as I go live, the phone starts ringing. And no matter where I place it in the house, you can still hear it. I'm going to have to throw it outside next time. All right, but let's get back to this. The fear of people. I think as a Christian, when it comes to the fear of people, there's two things to consider. All right? And again, when I do these live devotional thoughts, this is not planned out, so there may be a lot of other things to consider. But let me state it this way. I want you to consider two remedies to fear controlling your life. Two biblical remedies. One, the fear of God should be the controlling fear, quote unquote, of your life. I think if you fear God most, then you will not be dominated by the fear of man. Now, the fear of God, we know from Scripture, is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of God is the beginning of knowledge. The fear of God is absolutely critical to living out your Christian life. And I truly believe that if you fear God, I truly believe this, and you fear Him supremely, then you won't fear what other people can say, what other people can do. And Jesus makes this clear, hey, don't fear men who can destroy the body. Fear God who can destroy the body and the soul. Fear God. The fear of God, I think, will overcome the fear of man. Now, I understand the fear of man is different kind of fear than the fear of God. The fear of God is a reverence and a respect, but it's an understanding of His power, His sovereignty. But we should be so concerned with God that we are less concerned with men. We're so preoccupied with God that we're not so preoccupied with the opinions of others. Some people are so concerned what other people think. Now, nobody likes when we know that other people think things about us, say things about us, but we can't allow that to be the dominating fear in our life. All right? We cannot allow that to happen. And I'm going to set the iPad back down. So I think that's number one. The fear of God is a remedy to the fear of man. Herod was consumed by the fear of people, and we obviously know he did not fear God. All right, I think that's clear, right? I mean, he hears the morality coming from God through the prophet John the Baptist, and he's like, "Oh, got to silence this man," and I'm going to kill him. He was consumed by the fear of man, but I think the fear of God overcomes the fear of man. And there's another, and I think this is kind of an interesting contrast. I haven't thought this all the way through, but I just thought of this. 1 John, I believe. 1 John chapter 4. 1 John chapter 4, let's go with verse 18. 1 John chapter 4, verse 18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear. Because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love. We love Him because He first loved us. I'm going to go back to verse 16 for context. And we have known and believed the love that God hath to us. God is love, And he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him. Herein is our love made perfect, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth